who is the director of MeLCi Lab. So.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for inviting me. And I will be very brief. So I would just like to say that as much as we think we know everything, it is important to be humble and realize that trial and error is always part of the process, particularly in these challenging subjects. So I think this is an important notion, not at least because times always progress and become new and more inclusive ways of looking at diversity and inclusion emerge. And then when we look at diversities, we always have to be open to critique and to learn. This is not my main field of work, I have to say, but I work, for instance, within intercultural dialogue, and so these notions are also very important in that sense. And so I really think that we have to have that openness and also to be able to also learn through critique. And also because there is always a better way to thinking and to express ourselves. And so this is why it is so important also to support research in this particular area and such the work that is being carried out at SICANT and MeLCi Lab. And so thank you again for inviting me to deliver this opening address and also to have the opportunity to listen. And apart to SICANT and MeLCi Lab, I would like to mention the Easy Language International Network, and if I may, to especially thanks to Katia Casimiro and Carla Souza, and also to Lucia Mesquita, and of course, last but not least, to Professor Carlo Eugeni, that were very important in the organization of this session. And of course, once again, last but not least, our very relevant guest speakers that I'm sure will make this online roundtable very, very relevant. And thank you again.
Thank you so much. So we will start the session with the first part. It's titled Using Easy Language to Involve People with Intellectual Disability in Research from Involvement to Co-Production. In this first part, we will have the participation of Deborah Shin, Shalin Ali, and Carla Souza. If I mispronounce your names, please, I'm sorry. And we were expecting Paola, but she's not here. So we will start the session. Do you want me to do a brief presentation? Do you want to take the floor and present yourselves? How do you want this to go?
I don't mind just introducing myself and then go from there.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we can introduce ourselves. Thanks, Katia. Do you want to start?
Yeah, I can start.
Who are you?
Oh, sorry. So my name is Shalem. I'm part of the Feeling at Home project with Deborah Chin. I'm part of King's College University, and I've been part of this project for a year.
Oh, longer than that.
Longer than that, but yeah, that's me.
So as usual, Shalem is very modest in giving his presentation of himself. So I could also say all the other things you do, Shalem. Is that all right?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So Shalem is a trainer and he trains health staff about working with people with learning disabilities. Do quite a lot of that, don't you? And through the Oliver McGowan training. You've been a quality checker, where you've gone round and looked at the quality of different services. Are you still doing that?
No, they've stopped that.
No, stop that, yeah. And did you work for CQC for a bit?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was also for the National Inspection Service for Health and Social Care. What other things have you done, Shalin? Katie will remember some as well. Oh yeah, you're a journalist.
Yeah, so yeah. Writing stuff.
You write a column in a magazine. You've been a blogger. Anything else? DJ, yeah.
And I've written some academic stuff for the British.
You have, yeah.
Learning Disability England, which is for social care point of view for the academic people.
Yeah, so you've kind of been an author on
2 articles.
Two articles, maybe more.
3.
2 or 3 articles at least. Yeah. So you can look Shalin up and find his writing and the other things. Yeah. So is that more or less it?
I'm actually working with 2 other projects with Deborah on a project on racism in day services of residential care, and the second project is about stop taking medication.
So that's the medicine.
Kind of looking at consultational work, making words more easier so people can understand about their medication and what they're taking, how they feel about their medication, but making it more easier to understand when they're talking to their GPs or doctors. I've also been offered to do another project similar to the racism project on people with learning disabilities to support their community. So they understand if the community with physical disability or a learning disability, to support them in their own community, because there's a lot of stigma in the Black and Asian community about supporting people in their communities.
Thanks, Shalin. Yeah, probably more stuff. And I'm Deborah Chin. I'm a clinical psychologist by training. So I work with people with learning disabilities. In England, we say learning disabilities, not intellectual disabilities. It's just the word we use in England, and Scotland and Northern Ireland. And I also do research with people with learning disabilities. So I don't know, maybe before we start our conversation, I know Carlo was going to say a little bit about this, but maybe to think about different ways of involving people with learning disabilities in research. I don't know, Carlo, if that's something that you were going to touch on in a bit more detail.
Yeah, I'll touch it also, but I don't have many details. So maybe one thing we can do is I can present myself and then we can more freely start. Do you think that's feasible?
Well, Shalin and I maybe prepared some questions for us to discuss.
Okay.
But I guess maybe to think about, just to open up the subject more. So when we think about how people with intellectual disabilities or who need support with communication, how they could be part of research. Sometimes that means getting their opinions or interviewing them, and learning more about their lives, maybe hearing what they think or hearing what they say, and having them join in as participants, like to take part in the research. And that's really super important. I think more and more people kind of invited to take part.
Yeah, I also feel that from a research point of view and from a professional point of view, it's looking at the lack of making it easy and understand information, and also how you work alongside the kind of different diversity in your research, how we can adjust that through easy to read information when you deliver your research.
So I think that's really important, isn't it? And you helped us in. I'm going to say a little bit about our project, but in order to invite people to take part in the research, we had to make kind of easy read, information so people knew what the research was about. We made a video. Do you remember the video
Yeah,
we
so
made? You didn't do that video. You weren't in that video, but we've made another video
Yeah.
where we like show people what happens if they take part in the research. Because for
Yeah.
some people, it's easier to watch the video than like to read all the easy read.
Visual
Yeah. It's a bit easier to understand. Yeah.
And I think that's the easiest way if you're working with people with
Mm.
complex needs or high needs, or you haven't got a limit of understanding, is to make a visual aspect.
Yeah.
Then it will just make it more easier for you as researchers, but also make it easier for them to understand your research project.
I think we really got that feedback, didn't we? When we showed people the video to explain what the research is about, see if they want to join in the research, it looked like people were really interested and they were really focused on watching the video. So just making it easy language, like easy read, that was helpful. But I think you're right, the video, making it visual, that did really help. Yeah. So that's kind of one kind of involving people, but we wanted to focus a bit more on having a different kind of way of involving people with learning disabilities. So to have people like Shalin, who are members of the research team. So to have a co-researcher with learning disabilities. And that was your job, wasn't it, in the Feeling at Home project?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, yes.
In fact, I'm going to share my screen very quickly. I'm going to show,
Yeah.
just to show what the Feeling at Home project looked like. I'll just say a few words about it. And then maybe we'll go through our questions. How about that? Right, here we are. Here is the Feeling at Home research project, which you can you see that? You are screen sharing. Okay, yeah. So we've got a nice website, and we tried to make the website like accessible and easy for everyone to find their way around. So we put information about the research. In fact, there's a video of me here, a bit embarrassing, talking about the research. We had a really nice website designer. So we had blogs, and we used an approach called Photo Voice, where our people who joined in the research took photos of their lives, and we put all the photos, and then we made some resources and a toolkit and a checklist. So it was quite a big project, went on for about 3 years. So please do have a look at the Feeling at Home website, and you're very welcome to share any of the resources. But also, this was one way that we tried to communicate with people who were interested in the research, so people who were taking part in the research, they could find out more, and also to share some of the findings. But I know Katie's going to talk a bit more about sharing findings. So what I was going to do, I can't remember even how much time I've got, is Shalom and I discussed maybe some questions to run through about how you were involved in research. So is that okay, Katia, if we go through that? How long have we got?
Yes, we will go until 2:30. So my suggestion would just be so Carla to present herself, and then we go back to you and give this dynamic.
Then.
Because
we'll come back to me. We'll come back to other questions later. All right, fine, great.
Perfect.
So hi everyone. I'm so very sorry we had to cut you a bit because I was very engaged in your talk and your thoughts. I'm Carla, as Katia said. I'm Carla Souza. I'm from Lusófona University. I'm also a clinical psychologist from a background, and then I did my PhD in communication sciences. And I mostly study video games as a medium. So my research subject is mostly around accessibility in games, what type of literacies people need to have to be full and formed members of the gaming world. And of course, I'm rather an outsider here because my idea of easy language is making games, not necessarily written language, but making games more accessible in a way. So that type of media more accessible. I prepared just some topics, but maybe now we can go back to Deborah and Shalem, and then I can add, or I can do it very quick. And you are the one in charge, Katya, and thank you for organizing all this.
Sorry, my connection is very low, so I don't know what happened just now.
No, I was just asking you if you need me to, if you want me to give my overall thoughts I brought, or going back to Deborah and Shalem.
Yeah, we can go back to the eventually and have a conversation. Then if you want to add something, you are free to do it.
I do agree. I do agree.
Thank you. That sounds so interesting, Carla. I'd really love to hear more about that. I know I'm not much of a gamer myself, but you're a bit more, yeah, a bit more. So yeah, be interesting. Okay, so I'm just going to go through the questions a little bit that we thought about. So the first question was, Shalem, if you can remember how you got your job as a co-researcher with Feeling at Home.
So I did a previous project with Deborah like 9 years ago. It's back in.
We to be honest, when we were talking about this question, we couldn't remember. We couldn't remember.
Such a long time.
It was a long time ago, wasn't it? Yeah.
And
was
then,
it 9? No, 9 years.
No, it was over. I don't know.
Well, it was well before COVID.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
So I got an email from Deborah saying, "Would you like to be part of this project?" I said yes. And then she gave me a couple. She brought me down the email. We had a meeting, and then we kind of discussed. I was very interested.
We did a contract, didn't we?
Yes,
we did like a job description, so you knew what you were going to do.
I had to apply for the job.
I don't think you had to apply. I don't think, because I think we said you were going to be on the research team from the beginning.
Right, okay.
So I don't think you needed to apply for the job, as far as I remember, because we basically wanted you to join in.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
I think that's my overview on it.
Yeah, I think you're right. Somehow we knew each other before, didn't we? And I can't quite remember. But we wanted you to be part of the research team, like, because Katie, who's here, she was the research assistant, research associate on the research project, and definitely you were around before she started, so you were part of it from the beginning. And maybe we even talked to you a little bit about the ideas for the research and got some feedback. Yeah, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
It was
Sorry.
a long time ago. That's all right. Yeah, no. So what parts of the Feeling at Home, with your job with Feeling at Home as a co-researcher, what did you like best? What worked best for you?
I mean, obviously I've been working in health and social care for 15 years, so I work with young people with autism and challenging needs, but also working with the CQC. So I had a lot of experience working in health and social care, but also working with professionals like OTs, occupational therapists, psychologists. So I had them tools. I really wanted to work on this project to get people's views about living independently, but making their choices with people with learning disabilities. Because when you have your own keys, you could decorate your own house, and people didn't have that because there was barriers. People and they have to ask staff, they have to ask managers if they can decorate their houses or their rooms, and it was interesting because many people don't have choices in life, and this project was very interesting because to get people with learning disabilities to be very creative, but also imagine their own house with their own keys and have that freedom. And
I think that really inspired all of us, really, you know, that you had that really strong idea of what you wanted, why the research was important, you know, and like things sort of I think it kept us all to focus on things like making choices, having independence. Yeah,
and I also feel that we all in society, we all have our own keys, we all live with parents, we all live with students, we all live with someone, we all have our own house, we all have our own rooms, but our own rooms are, you know, decorated with culture, values, you know, things that we kept in slow society, and also houses change throughout the years, that you have different types of houses. So it's very fascinating that we all can relate to stuff in our own homes.
Yeah, you're right. So the feeling, probably best to kind of just remind people, the Feeling at Home project was about if people are living like in a shared home, like a staff with staff support, people with learning disabilities, we wanted to see like how much freedom and choice they had, you know, were they living like ordinary lives like other people, or were like staff in charge and telling them what to do and everything.
So just kind of break that kind of barrier.
Yeah, thanks, Shilin. Wow, very, very eloquent. So there we go. Did you learn any new skills when you were in the project? Were there things that you did that you'd never done before?
I've done a lot of interviews in my
in
my current experience. I've been on both sides, been interviewed and being a recruiter. So I had the experience of interviewing for assistant that Katie.
Oh, you did. You got yeah, that's right. We interviewed Katie.
Yeah, I think 6 people for the position. They were very simple questions.
I've forgotten about all of that. Right.
We had Deborah as one of the interviews, and also me. My observation of the interviews were quite simple, but obviously I wanted to throw a curveball, like I wanted to ask them outside the box question, because it's the most interesting thing, is throwing them a very complex question to them and see if they can figure it out.
Good
from their point of
technique.
view as a researcher, but also from a professional background. They all did well, but I felt that Katie did really well because she was very passionate about her job. She was very enthusiastic, and she was very keen to work on this project, and she put a lot of effort in this project.
She did, thank you. So there was interviewing other staff in the project.
And I think we had a great research team, because I picked up a lot of knowledge, skills from every professional background, and that's what kept my job very strongly working with our researchers.
And can I let people know about your prize?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. So Shilin, you did quite a few presentations at conferences, as well as writing academic articles. You also did some different presentations, and at one of them, I think it was at the Social History of Learning Disability conference, Shilin got a prize for being the best co-researcher. So we're really, really proud of that. That's amazing. Great, okay. Were there any parts of the job that were more difficult, that you found a bit challenging?
I think working with the participators, with Katie, as she was part of the assistants, trying to narrow down the groups, on an individual basis, but also going to the where they live, and explaining the project, and also try to work around the groups, because we had our group was very emotional. We have very high emotions from the individual person. To maintain that mentally and physically was really difficult, and also to make the project more simplified, so they understand what we're talking about, and make it more easy in access and not overwhelming. We did really well with Katie to manage that. We had several brief discussions with the group, and I think it was a very successful group. They really engaged with taking photos, picking up different types of images, different drawings. They really liked going to the exhibitions, because they took the pictures they like and put it onto the display of the exhibitions. And I think that was the main, and they really liked me and Katie a lot. They really engaged with us, so it's really nice.
I think you and Katie were a really good team, and it was great that, you know, like, I think part of her job was to kind of support you and, you know, make sure things were working. I mean, we really had to work together as a team.
It wasn't just about
you supported her as well.
from her point of view as a
Mm.
professional, but I think working alongside people who are on the same level, but also from a different professional background, does help. And also it helped me as part of my job as a researcher and working with other researchers as well.
We've got another question, but we could leave it. We've only got 1 minute. Maybe we'll stop there. Thank you. We'll stop there. I don't know if we want to do some. If any people have got other questions for Shilin, or other.
If you don't mind, we will leave the questions for the final part of all this event. Okay, because I have questions myself for Shalene, so I would like to take part.
You can write them down, Katia, and bring them later.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Shilin.
Perfect.
That was really great. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Carla.
Yeah, so thank you, first of all, Shalim, for your testimony, for sharing your knowledge and experiences. I don't think I have much to add on why co-researchers, why inclusive research, besides the label of something being inclusive until something actually being inclusive, that I can add after Shalim's talk. So I would probably start before my own specific aspects of research for saying what it looks like in our context, from my experience in the Portuguese context, how it has been trying to do research. I won't call it inclusive because I don't have that. I mean, I know we are not always as inclusive, but as inclusive as we can, considering our context. I mean, in Portugal, first of all, it is important to say that we still have a long way to go until we fully operationalize what I think the paradigm of disinstitutionalization of people with disabilities, mainly learning / intellectual disabilities, should look like. So although we signed the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, I think we are still in a process and farther than I think we should be in terms of not being so dependent on institutions, so to say, to support these individuals in their daily lives. Why am I touching that? Because, and Katya knows that I have this privilege of being Katya's supervisor, so we have been working together, that we have, when we want to reach people with disabilities and involve them in our research, we have this experience of several gatekeepers emerging. So we do try, but by trying, we need to have contact with institutions, with NGOs, with support institutions, and that makes it not as inclusive as we want it to be. I think in our Portuguese context, involving people with learning disabilities / intellectual disabilities in our research it has matters of what a dear colleague of mine would call sociological inaccessibility. So as our society is not as inclusive, I think those individuals are not in the public spaces, either tangibly speaking or even in the digital spaces. So it is difficult to reach them without these gatekeepers, which makes things more difficult. And although we acknowledge this, NGOs, etc., most of the times are well-intentioned. This makes it a bit more difficult. So, and that would be a bit of context for my talk. And besides that, as I told in the beginning, my biggest interest are games as a medium. And when I started my PhD, I understood, so it was some years ago, now is a bit better, but I understood that games for people with disability, games are a form of culture, but we still have some stigma around them. And for people with disability, games were actually used and think of, but only as or more as ways to enhance skills, to be ways of therapeutic intervention, and not thinking how can games be a fully open way of culture, which we also would say it is kind of a gatekeeping and kind of a stigmatization, saying for everyone games can be just entertainment, but for people with disabilities they are cognitive enhancement tools, blah blah blah. So our proposal, my proposal in my PhD, and it continued till today a bit. Our proposal was to make games accessible for people with intellectual disabilities. Also, we worked with deaf people. We are increasingly now working with blind people, trying to make them accessible, because we think that it is not up to us to say that for these individuals what needs to be accessible are only essential things like public transportation or how to do your taxes. This is, of course, crucial, but also accessing culture, accessing entertainment would be crucial. So, and the rest I had it here, it was pretty much building upon what Shalim and Deborah already touched on, how accessibility in games needs to be, and I believe accessibility in media needs to be more than just a checkbox of guidelines. So the way for you to make it more accessible is making creative teams more representative, because it's not only about me being able to access a game or interactive narrative, but also seeing my voice, my daily experiences represented there. I have a crucial example of that. When I back then when I did my PhD, something that people or therapists working with these individuals, they were saying that they were not interested in any workshop of cognitive stimulation. They found it boring, the reason they found it boring was, first of all, because the activities being proposed to them were actually very boring. Anyone would find them boring. And secondly, because people never asked them what they would prefer to do. Okay? And this seems the simplest thing. So we made, basically we were able to make games that mechanically they were not so different in terms of cognitive needs or cognitive exigencies from the tasks that were previously asked them, but they were about football or about dating or about fighting sometimes, because this was also a question, and did that make them much more engaged, only because it kind of represents their interest. So sometimes I think how could be if we have more diversity in terms of neuro neuro abilities or of cognitive abilities in the different creative teams, how that world would look like. And I think that's what I had here. I'm not sure if you want to add something, Deborah or Shalim or Katya.
Okay, perfect. So, yes, do you want to add something?
Do you want to put your hand up?
Oh, my hand up.
Yeah. I'll find the hand up.
It's fine.
You just put your hand up, yeah.
I I was going to ask, what's her name? Carla, a question on the project aspect is, what do they think about kind of AI technology in that sense of making games? Avatar people making certain games.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not a researcher about AI aspects still, because I do believe probably everyone here will need to research at least a bit around AI and implications. Something that for me, AI is still a set of opportunities and concerns. And I think because it really makes it more democratic for creators, of course. I mean, I can put some prompts and I can have a visual novel around the topic that I wish to, that is very cohesive in several terms. The question is AI. I mean, it's important that we acknowledge, I believe, as researchers, that it is not an entity, not a godlike thing. It is technically trained by what we already produced as human beings, and we know what we produced as human beings is ableist sometimes, misogynistic sometimes, not as accessible as it could be. So if we are training a technology with that data, possibly what we will have are narratives that are produced by AI and also biased. For example, a dear colleague of mine was doing a study about visual novels, which are a narrative type of game, and how AI could produce visual novels. And he understood that the representation of diversity in those novels were very scarce, that the ending of those novels tends to always be positive, and not necessarily realistic. So it kind of narrows our emotional experiences through games towards always positive view of the world. And I mean, we basically, I think it's very good, because in the end, nowadays, from when I'm doing a post on Instagram, I just put a photo in GPT and say, please describe this, and it does a good alternative text. So it's good in terms of time consuming and in terms of several things, but and same for games, but it still needs to be thought of and reflected upon, I believe, because it also can emphasize some biases.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. We are going now to the second part of this session. My idea is that, or my suggestion is that, since we only have 3 speakers now instead of 4 for this first part, we move the Q&A session for the last part of the session, so everyone then can participate. Deborah, Carla, Katie, and Danielle, and maybe we can have more questions. Okay. So we will now move to the second part of the session that Katie and Daniela will be taking part of. Do you want me to do a brief presentation, a brief introduction of yourselves, or do you prefer to do yourself?
It's okay, I'll introduce myself. It's fine. Thank you. So I'm Katie Brickley. I worked with Deborah and Shilin on the Feeling at Home study as the research assistant, which was amazing, brilliant. And I now work as a researcher in Bath Spa University, but also as an easy read translator. So I think that's enough. I'm just going to share my slides. I've just got a few examples of sort of using easy language in research findings and sharing them with different audiences. So I just thought I'd put them on a slide because you can see them. But just have to make sure I share it. Sorry, I'm very slow with this.
It's fine. Don't worry, don't. Oh, do you want Daniela? Oh, okay, I was going to ask if you want Daniela to present herself, but you already are sharing, so it's fine.
Have I done it?
Go ahead. Yeah, it is. Perfect.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, thank you. So I'm just going to share some examples. So the first one I wanted to share was a very small project about museums. So Frome Museum is a small town. It's where I live. It's a small town in England. And the museum wanted to know how they could be more inclusive. So they worked with Bath Spa University, with the team that I'm with, and a small charity called Open Storytellers. The charity supports people with intellectual learning disabilities to sort of do creative things, make films, have the opportunity to share stories about themselves. They're really creative. So together they ran 5 creative workshops. So they had volunteers from the museum and staff from Bath Spa University, and artists, filmmaking storytellers all get together and think about what were the barriers to using the museum and being involved and being included. And they came up with these amazing tips, and they thought that they would sort of put them together for the museum itself, but then also share them more widely. So they came up with some things that you might expect. So use smell and touch and sound more. So thinking about sensory aspects of the museum, and sort of putting access information on the website, so people could prepare for their visit and think about what accessible things that they would need, and whether they had them. But they also came up with some sort of quite interesting ideas about inviting local people in more to tell their stories. So Free Museum, it's a very small museum, it's in a small town, so it tells a lot of stories about local people and what was here. But I think the people in the open storytellers really felt that people with intellectual disabilities, their stories are quite often not told and not included in museums generally. So they really wanted to sort of push this as an idea and help get their stories into museums more. So that was really cool. So here are the findings. So they made this beautiful poster in the middle here, which they displayed in the museum, which I think is a really nice sort of commitment to what they're trying to do, sort of explaining in clear language and easy language what the tips are, but also that they sort of open to working with people, and I think that sort of creates a nice inclusive environment. They made a little leaflet as well for other museums or guide, and they did a YouTube video, which I'm not going to show you, but I can share the link later. But participants from Open Storytellers sort of were involved in making it and sort of show you around the museum. So it's a really nice way to get the information over and those tips over in a really clear way, and from the people that need it and want it. I think it's a bit more immediate. So that was a really interesting project for me to see, and I'm really excited about the possible next steps, because I think they are thinking about developing an archive to include stories of local people with intellectual disabilities in the museum more. So it sort of had an impact on that as well, which is really exciting. So fingers crossed. I've got another couple of examples, but I don't know if do you want me to talk through them now?
I think we have time, Lucia.
Yeah,
Can you confirm? I
can
can't
whiz
see
through
you.
them.
Yeah,
Okay.
2 minutes.
A couple of minutes.
2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, right. So this one is about thinking about how to make research abstracts more accessible. So there's a company in Switzerland called Archaeoconcept. They're a heritage and education company. And they've got a new publication out about the accessibility of archaeology. So the study of people in the past. And they really wanted to, well, the whole publication's about how to make archaeological sites more accessible and more inclusive. And then they thought, well, we're writing a book about it. We really need to make this information more accessible. And they went to the publisher, who was Springer Nature, and they were really supportive of using more easy language. So they employed me as an easy language translator. And together with them and the authors of the different chapters, they're kind of like case studies from different countries around Europe. We worked together and created these sort of much more accessible versions of the abstracts, which were really quite difficult for me to understand. So I learned a lot about archaeology that time, because I really had to look everything up. So it was great. And then we tested the abstracts, and there was sort of a lot of back and forth, actually, much more than I would have thought, particularly between the authors and the testers. But in the end, I think we got to something that was quite useful as a summary of what's to come in the book. So the next steps with this project is hopefully it'll be published in 2025. And I think the publishers are quite interested in making audio versions, apparently. So that's also really exciting to look out for. I expect that was my 2 minutes. Was it? That's
Yes.
my other yes. Okay. I'll come back to this one maybe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop sharing. Okay.
Daniela?
Yes, thank you for inviting me too. Do you want me to present myself or do you want to
Yes,
do
you
it?
can, unless you prefer me to do it, you can present yourself as you wish.
I can do it. I will speak in easy language.
Perfect.
So I am Daniela Eichmeier-Hell. But hell in German means bright, not hell as the opposite of heaven. So I'm a professional in interpreting and speech-to-text interpreting. Interpreting means I translate in real time. I interpret many languages: German, easy German, Spanish, easy Spanish, English, easy English, and French. Sometimes I interpret into spoken language so you can hear me. Other times I interpret into written language. Then you can read in real time what I speak or what others speak. I also work on my doctoral thesis at the University of Vienna. The doctoral thesis is about speech-to-text interpreting. So there is something more. If you want to know, I studied in Austria, in Colombia, in South America, in Germany. I hold different academic titles. I worked 25 years in international business before becoming an interpreter. So this is something about myself. And I want to share with you some thoughts about inclusion in real time. You heard a lot of translation, so you can read the information. You heard also about videos. You heard about the projects in museums. But what do you do in an event? There is, for example, an event. Many people make speeches. They speak English or another language. They speak very quickly. Sometimes they speak with a heavy accent, so you maybe do not understand them. They make very long sentences. You may not understand it. They may use technical terms, so difficult words. You might not understand it. So you can use an interpreter. The interpreter says at the same time in easy language what other people say. This is a very difficult task, but it can help you. It can help you to understand. Obviously, main group for easy language simultaneous interpreting, simultaneous means at the same time, is for people with learning difficulties. We have talked about intellectual disabilities, learning disabilities, and also learning difficulties. In Germany, the German word would also be learning difficulties. So it is not a disability. So, but we have other people listening to easy language. Imagine you come from, let's say, you are at a conference. Everybody speaks English and you might not understand, but there is no interpreter for Romanian. But there is an interpreter for easy language. So you can listen to easy language and understand very easily. I had an experience myself. I speak Italian quite well. I get along very well in daily life. But about some months ago, there was a presentation of research done about lingua facile, which is easy language in Italian, at the university. And everybody only talked Italian. And Italian research language is very complicated and very, very quickly when it is spoken. So I thought, oh, will I be able to listen during 4 hours to scientific results? Well, let's try. And then there was interpretation into easy language, into lingua facile, which is easy Italian. So I listened to easy Italian the whole afternoon and I had no problem understanding. So this is for me. I don't have a learning disability. I even do speak Italian, but not enough for this kind of conference. And there is another group of people that use easy language, people with ADS and ADHS, so people that have difficulties in focusing, in concentrating, and also for people with autism. These people like a very clear language, tam, tam, tam. So they prefer easy language. And the last group is language learners. They might not yet understand very well, but know quite good the language already. So easy language is a big help for them. So this is what I wanted to tell you. You can get inclusion and integration of everybody using easy language, but in real time. And for that, you need interpreters. Thank you.
Perfect. You were right on time. Thank you so much for your presentation. I will now open the floor to questions if anyone has ones. Otherwise, I have one for everyone. So let me know if anyone wants to ask a question. No, okay. So I'll ask my question, then we'll see where this takes us. So, have any of you, and this is for all of you, ever wrote a full article on easy language? Because I only know they now have a brief summary in layered language or easy language. So, but it's only a part, a specific part. So just a summary, an abstract, where you summarize the main topics of your article. But I wanted to know if anyone has any experience with writing a full article on easy language.
In writing what? Excuse me, I didn't hear it quite well. An article.
An article, yes. Yes, Deborah?
I started one actually. I didn't ever finish it, and I found it. I was trying to explain some quite complex ideas like decolonizing. So the article was about decolonizing language, I think. I can't quite remember. And yeah, it was. I never finished it, and I think maybe I shared it with Katie at some point to have a look at. But it was a really good experience. It was very difficult to try and express quite complicated ideas, but using plain words to do that. So I did do things like, you know, when we write academic articles, we have to show like who we got the ideas from, like you put the authors in brackets, you know, and that kind of thing. So I did put that in because, you know, you have to do that. But I think it is a lot easier than you might think. You know, it's definitely possible is what I thought, but on the other hand, I never finished. So there you go. I mean, we've written summaries, but you're right, it's a different thing to start the whole thing and write for a wide audience. So this was not, the article I was writing, I didn't want it just to be for people with communication support needs. I wanted it to be a way of my expressing my ideas for a very wide audience and to go into an academic journal.
Okay, I'll start in order. Carla?
What I have to say is a bit, I never wrote an article in easy language. Neither a summary. Here it's not we don't have that culture, unfortunately. So, but I had some reflections with colleagues, even colleagues that are not so keen with this kind of topics. So I have, it's like a provocatory thought for the speakers and the audience, which is more like us as academics, we kind of have this tendency to complicate things. So isn't like talking in a very in a more or in a simpler way, wouldn't it make our wouldn't it like decrease our prestige as academics, at least how how society sees it? So I'm not saying I agree, but I can see this as an institutional issue if we really need this.
Thank you. Katie, if anyone wants to comment on what Carla just said, also just do it. Katie?
Yeah, that's really interesting, Deborah. We should return to your article and have another look. I haven't done an article, but I did just remember that I was asked to translate a book on politics and disability. It was really challenging, but actually I found it really helpful and I did it. In the end, we broke it down into chapters and sort of booklets. And I think it was really helpful to sort of clarify the argument and to really get to the bottom of what it was about. So I think that was really helpful. But I think there's lots of ways maybe that we could do the same thing, but just really think about the user and what they might want. So maybe an article is not what everybody wants. Maybe people don't want to read the whole thing. Maybe a video might be better than a sort of an easy language article, printed document. So but yeah, it was really a really interesting process. Hard, but good.
Thank you. Daniela?
In Austria, there is a magazine, kind of a monthly newspaper. It's called Andererseits, which means kind of on the other hand. They write articles all in easy German. The journalists are people with learning disabilities. And I think it's now a year or 2 years old. I can check because I got a message. There was an anniversary. It's and I see here it's got a social impact award. No, it doesn't say here how long it has been active, but it's very interesting. So there are people writing in easy language.
Yes. Anyone wants to add?
I maybe have a question for Kathy, if I may, because I understood that in your presentation you had some insights about actually what we were previously discussing, artificial intelligence and the production of summaries in easy language. I would like to question your experience. Is it effective?
Yeah, it was just a small project actually with Andy Coverdale from Southampton University. So the British Journal of Learning Disabilities, they ask all their authors to make accessible summaries, which is great. But sometimes people have used AI to make the summaries. So they were wondering how to what can we do to give authors the help they need to make these accessible summaries, because I think it's inevitable, people will always probably use AI now to do that. So so we had little workshops with Open Storytellers, actually, the charity in my town, who I work with quite a lot. And we explored how AI could be used. And it was really quite it's quite exciting because to start with, we sort of asked people, you know, to sort of use different prompts. We tried out different prompts like you know, you could use put this article in easy language. But then we decided and realized that actually that's not very good because you're not really sure what AI was doing when it looked up how to do easy language. So we sort of broke it down into steps. And actually that was a really good thing because there was quite a few different people in the workshop and people needed different things. They needed the information in different ways. So we broke it down into the steps. So some people might have wanted a shorter chunk of text. Other people wanted bullet points. Other people wanted things defined. So then we could just sort of, you know, chat and be sort of conversational, and it was very sort of personalized response and output. But the really exciting thing was that it was sort of like a learning opportunity as well because not everybody had used AI before. So that was interesting, but also sort of highlighted some of the inaccessible features of the platforms. But because it was sort of quite an exciting moment for people, they were trying out all sorts of different things. So like put this research article into a poem, an easy language poem, instead of an abstract. So, you know, so it was really nice to see the different ways that information could be presented and quite creative and, you know, maybe thinking a little bit differently from time to time. But I think there's some, barriers still to, doing it sort of, you know, you need to think about what's happening. And we did write some guidelines for the journal, so I can share those later if you like.
Sorry, I was on mute. I was just saying definitely I would love to check because I mean one of the barriers we have is like financial etc. barrier, and if we have kind of a tool, I mean it won't replace the validation at least from people with learning disabilities, but to kind of ease the process, I think it would be good.
Yeah. Daniela?
Thank you. You maybe have to think of copyright, of the protection of your work. So you have to have in mind, if you put that into an AI, it will be spread out everywhere. So you have to take care. This is one point. And the other point is sometimes AI tells you this is easy language when it is still not easy language. You know, they don't convert metaphors. So how to say that in easy language, an image for something into easy words. They leave these comparisons, these metaphors, these other words for something, meaning something. They leave oftentimes Latin roots, or for German, for example, English roots of a word, or they mean just putting short sentences. It is already easy English, and it is not. So you still have to put your head in there. You have to think, you have to be creative. You get a lot of ideas. When I prepare for simultaneous interpreting, I oftentimes use AI, but I use it only for single words or maybe an expression that consists of 3 or 4 words. And then I think, and I sometimes get good ideas, but sometimes not. But I would never put a text that I get for preparation into AI because I would violate the intellectual property, so the worth of the text of the person who wrote it. How do you think about the topic of data protection, intellectual property, copyright, all that rights?
Katie, do you want to answer?
Oh, yes, sorry. I wasn't going to respond about copyright, but I did want to say, yeah, absolutely agree that it's like a tool. It's like another tool in the toolkit. because yeah, it's not a fail-safe, but it helps you, like you say, with ideas, but also sort of simple ways to very quickly change information when you're sort of working with somebody else or co-writing or things like that. And I think that sort of gives a bit of the power over to away from the translator and towards sort of co-authors or testers.
Perfect. So just to finish this session, I have a question for Shalene that I haven't forgot, and I would like to ask, or maybe two questions. Can I say the two questions now, or should I say the one first and then the other?
If you do it separately, I could ask separate questions.
Perfect. So you talked about how you got the job and what was the difficult parts of it, but I would also like to know what was your favorite part or favorite parts of being a co-researcher.
I think the favorite part was working with the team, engaging, learning, kind of acknowledge the skills and knowledge, and also working with the participators. I learned a lot doing the workshops and building up skills and knowledge, and also kind of giving my overview on the project and giving my opinion on the project. It kind of gave them a bit of confidence to go on to their next project that they could work with. And like for me, who's got that experience of working with people with learning disabilities and autism, but also working in health and social care from an intellectual point of view, but also to break kind of the stigma that that are capable of working with people with learning disabilities, but also there's a lot of jobs out there, so the employment rate could go up. We have a poor employment rate in London, so people with learning disabilities should get more job opportunities in research, in my opinion.
Okay, perfect. And what would you like to say to, we are going to put this on YouTube because nobody said no. So we are going to put this on YouTube. What would you like to say to other researchers who might come across with this video? In terms of involving people with disabilities in research as co-researchers.
I would say it's a great achievement to be part of the research as someone with a learning disability. I also feel that it's great to work around the world with different people, and also it brings out confidence that you're more likely to be more independent as well, in my opinion.
Okay, so quick question to finish off to Deborah.
Yeah, I just wondered, so what was the question? Oh, what would you say to other researchers? Yes, that's right, sorry. Well, I think someone, maybe Carla, said that you have to have the right setup, you have to have the right context. So, for instance, we put Shilim as one of the co-applicants on the research. When we were looking for funding, and the funders were very happy to hear that someone like Shilim was going to be part of the research. So I think we've already got that culture, it's not seen as weird or unusual or, oh, what's he gone, like people feel like it's going to be a good thing if you've got someone with that lived experience, it's going to make the research better. So I think that side of it wasn't too difficult. We just had to think about it and plan, I think. It did mean like we had a whole group of different researchers, and some of us were from university backgrounds, and Katie's from a translation background, and Tony was from a clinical background, and we just had to adapt together, didn't we? And kind of make sure that everyone had a space, and like we could be flexible. We met in different places. Sometimes we met online, sometimes we met face to face. So I think it just took a little bit of planning to make sure all of the researchers were being able to do their best job, basically. I don't know, were there any things that you would say to people who are planning research and they want to have a co-researcher?
I think it's just get to know the field of work and make it more simplified to the person that is going to be researching with you as a learning disability. I think also to kind of break the kind of meetings. We have so many meetings.
It made us think about
doing a lot of meetings. To kind of be more flexible with that person, regardless of their communication aspects. If they're non-verbal, if they're quite intelligent, and also kind of, I think it's also about their well-being. So mental health well-being is crucial to both aspects in the group, but also across your work, and also making sure that you're happy with finishing your project and it's, hit the ground really from all angles that you're part of the group.
I think those are two really good points actually, Shalin. It's taught me to have short meetings, and like sometimes just meeting one-on-one is better than having a big group meeting. And the other you said about making sure people's well-being is looked after as well. I think that's really important. Because some of the stuff is a bit upsetting, it can be a bit stressful and
I mean, and also you might find out that some researchers might have family commitments and children, so you have to bear that in mind as well when you work with the person individually. So you've got to put that in context.
Perfect. Thank you. And Daniela added and breaks. Breaks also important. If no one else has any questions, I'll say we are finished.
Shalin's got a question.
No, I haven't got. Is that the second question?
Oh, was there another question? Were there two questions? She did two questions.
No, I did no, but he is right. There were two questions for Shalin, and I had one for Deborah and Katie. If you could answer in 1 minute. So Shalin said that he learned a lot as a co-researcher. I would like to know what did you learn with Shalin as a co-researcher?
Oh my God, I couldn't even start, to be honest. I think, Shalin, you're really good at expressing yourself. And I think what I said before about your passion and, you have to live that life as a disabled person, and you've got such a clear vision of like things have got to be better and you really want to make things right. So I think that kind of being able to learn that from you about like that viewpoint on things, I think was just amazing. Katie, what about you?
Yeah, I learned so much. I meant to say that earlier, actually, so much. But one of the things that stands out, so Shalin and we worked on the in the workshops together, and Shalin was really good at just putting people at ease and being really sensitive to people's like emotional feelings. So I really learned a lot and sort of followed you there and how to make people comfortable. You're just like an excellent facilitator, so I'm still learning from you, things like that. Yeah, really good. I think that was really hard, and like you said earlier, it was quite emotional, wasn't it? It's an emotional topic home, so yeah, dealing with that was really nice to have you helping like me figure it out.
Okay, thank you so much. We would like to take a screenshot, if you don't mind, for dissemination. So if anyone wants to turn on or turn off the cameras and smile, Lucia, say when, please.
1, 2, 3, and then. Well,
perfect.
That's perfect. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for everything. Thank you, Katja, for the amazing share. I'll be sharing the video in the website of our lab, and I'm gonna send the links to Katja so she will share with you all. And we also have a YouTube video channel, so we hope people could, this conversation could reach more people. Thank you so much. Katja, do you have?
Thank you so much. Sorry, I just wanted to thank everyone for being here and for participating, to Professor Maria José Brich for being here and giving the welcome talk to everyone, welcome session, to Deborah, to Katie, who helped me with the organization of this roundtable, along with Carlo, to Carlo, Daniela, for being here and participating and setting the invite, and for Amanda, Margarita, Sonia, and Juliana for being here and listening to this session. So thank you, everyone. I hope it was useful and exciting. Thank you, and thank you to Shalin. I forgot because his name was not on the I'm sorry, Shalin. Thank you so Your name was not on the here on the video. It was just Deborah. So my brain was like, yeah, I said everyone, but no, I forgot you. So I'm sorry. Thank you for being here, for accepting the invite, and for giving us your experience, telling us your experience. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Katja.
Katja.
Bye.
Thanks, Katja.
Leave. There we go. With you, Katie, on.